Hi everyone, this is Wayne Rivers at Performance Construction Advisors, where we build better contractors. This week I want to talk about the mathematical reason most people never make it. This is challenging. I'm not the most mathematical person in the world. This is a challenging one. And it comes from Kagura Gichuru, his Substack writing, January of 2026. Okay, 3 key facts. Number 1, of the 30 million businesses in the US, about 5,000, the square root of 30 million, produce 50% of the economic output. Think about that for a sec. In astrophysics, the square root of half the number of stars in the galaxy produce half the light. No, that's not right. I said that wrong. The square root of the number of stars in the galaxy produce half the light. On Spotify, of the 11 million artists, 50% of all the streams come from about 3,300 artists, which is the square root. Okay? This is something called Price's Law. Price's Law, you think about, okay, light from the heavens at night, if you're in a dark place. You think of it as a bell curve. Big stars produce more light than small stars, et cetera, et cetera. It's not a bell curve. Price's Law says that the square root of a number equals 50%. So in other words, half the light in the heavens comes from the square root of the number of stars. Okay? And he says you can apply this to any number of things. River systems. So the square root of the number of river systems in the world create 50% of the water flowing into the oceans. Sales teams. The square root of the number of salespeople that you have produce 50% of your sales, maybe more. Wealth distribution. It applies to wealth distribution. It applies to business. If you have 100 employees, what's the square root of 100? That's 10. 10 of your employees are producing 50% of the economic value. If you have 10,000 employees, it's 100. 50% of the square root of the number of employees you have produce 50% of the output. Now, this violates our sense of egalitarian instinct. I like to think all of our people contribute X to our performance, but according to Price's Law, the square root of the number of employees you have, in our case around 25, that's 5. 5 people produce 50% of our economic value. How can that be? Is that true? I don't want to think about it that way. Now, if I came to your company or you came to mine and we were truly objective, we might be able to see that clear. I can't see that clearly in my company. But I trust that Price's Law has some validity. Gichuru writes that real competence is rarer than we think it is. Results come from 4 things: skill, consistency, opportunity, and a little bit of luck. He said most people have 1 to 2 of their ingredients. They're lucky and there's an opportunity. Almost no people have all 4 of those ingredients applied consistently over time. So skill, consistently, opportunity, and some luck. Square root people, as he refers to them, have all 4 of those characteristics and they're trending in the same direction. Does that make sense? That's why they can add so much value to a team, to a company, to whatever. So you have dozens of skills. We all do. We have dozens of skills. But the square root of that number of skills, whatever it happens to be, drives half of your value in the marketplace. Well, what are the things that I do over time that add value to PCA? Well, I think I've narrowed it down through strategic coach and some other training: writing, speaking, selling, hiring, and strategic planning. 5 things. Those are 5 things I'm good at. And that adds value to PCA way more than if I tried to dive down into planning boot camp sessions or setting peer group agendas. Those 5 things that I do add pretty much all of the value that I'm capable of adding to PCA. Dan Sullivan talked about unique ability. And you've heard me talk about Dan Sullivan and his genius many times. If you can find a way to identify your top value skills in your organization, and it doesn't matter if you're the CEO or a project manager or a laborer in the field, if you can find a way to double down on your square root N skills, you're going to be more valuable. Your career is going to advance. You are going to be happier. Doing the things you love to do, and also, by the way, add value, will make you a happier person in your work life and in your home life. So analyze, if you're thinking about this concept, Price's Law, how does it apply to your construction company? Can you analyze your people and their unique abilities? What if you've got people working outside their unique abilities? I've defined what my 5 unique abilities are as they add value to PCA. But what if you've got a super talented estimator that is having to do some sort of administrative function that takes him or her out of that defined unique ability? What if you've got a project manager that's having to deal with HR issues that they're not comfortable with? Is there a way to free that person so that they can be back in their unique ability efforts? So think about your people and their unique abilities and how to get more of unique ability and less of all the other stuff. Second thing, what about your projects? If it's true that the square root of n, let's say in the course of a year you work on, 40 projects, okay? Square root of 40 is whatever it is. That's 50% of your economic value came from that tiny subset of projects, all right? What were their size? What was the type of project? What kind of margins? What projects create the least friction between you and your customers? Which projects are the most frictionless so that you can get them done more effectively, happier, and more efficiently? And then finally, a place where I think this makes perfect sense, analyze your business development funnel. What's your BD team look like? Who's actually producing? What of your proposals hit the spot? Which of your proposals fall flat? Look at those things, and if you can find your square root of n, and you can take the 2 or 3 ingredients that really produce good business development results. Maybe it's your presentation skills, but the team is on site with the owner. If that's your go-to, that's your strength, that's your team's unique ability, do more of it and eliminate all the extraneous stuff that you can. So I'd like to hear what you think. We have a great many engineers among our members, so let's hear what you think. You're more mathematical than me. Is Price's Law legit? Or is this some kind of crazy Substack article that I found that doesn't make any sense whatsoever? Email me, wrivers@performanceconstruction.com. This is Wayne Rivers at PCA, where we build better contractors.